While your odds of winning the lottery seem impossible, this next story might sound even more unreal. A company just brought back an extinct animal for the first time ever. These not-so-threatening howls are from baby dire wolves. Meet Romulus and Remus. They were born October 1st and have grown a bit in the past 6 months. Dire wolves have been extinct for more than 10,000 years. But today, Colossal Biosciences, the world's only de-extinction company, announced their successful rebirth.
Holy cow. Oh, you guys hate it when I say holy cow, don't you? Holy cow. Hey everybody, it's your ghost John. Welcome back to the 21CD podcast. I know we have a super sick episode dropping tomorrow that has literally nothing to do with this, but I had to stop in and talk about this because dang it, they did it. They brought back the dire wolves. So where's Jon Snow? Because it's about to get real Game of Thronesy up in here. And you know, all of this has really got me thinking about something. Wouldn't it be absolutely hilarious if, you know, humanity, we know, is kind of on this cycle, right? Sometimes it kills itself off. Sometimes God comes and wipes us out. Sometimes other things wipe us out. There's a great reset of one type of another, yada, yada, yada. All this stuff that we regularly talk about on this podcast. But wouldn't it be absolutely hilarious if every single time near the end of this cycle, mankind just gets bored with life? So they start resurrecting extinct beasts from the past that could easily wipe out mankind if mankind was on the planet of the past. But the permafrost is melting, guys. Like the ecosystem that these beasties lived in is not the same, and yet now they're in a new world. After all this sort of DNA gene manipulation stuff has been going on for a long time, right? Like we know that the Watchers were doing this kind of activity, which really makes you wonder if this is actually some kind of divine tech that we're witnessing. Like, in other words, we're not supposed to be able to do this kind of stuff, but we're doing it because this is Watcher technology, divine technology from the gods. Crazy time to be alive, guys. Crazier than we realize. And this, like I said, it's not new technology. It's ancient technology, and we're just figuring out how to use it again. Pretty cool, right? Wrong. They call this de-extinction, but that word barely captures the scope of what's actually happening. In 2025, 3 animals were born that just have no business being alive. And sure, it's cool, but they shouldn't be here. Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, are not ordinary wolves. They're genetically engineered recreations of dire wolves, like from Game of Thrones, an apex predator that disappeared more than 10,000 years ago, allegedly. And now, through gene editing and surrogate pregnancies and a carefully designed habitat, Colossal Biosciences, very fascinating name, very reminiscent of the Umbrella Corporation or something like that, well, they brought them back, or at least brought back something extremely close. The story began with ancient DNA that was extracted from preserved direwolf bones, and one they said was over 13,000 years old, and the other was more than 70,000 years ago, allegedly, they say. And so using this genetic blueprint, scientists at Colossal Biosciences basically edited the DNA of a living gray wolf, and they changed 14 genes. And these edits, even though it doesn't sound like there were very many of them, had significant effects. And the resulting pups are larger, they're heavier, they're more muscular, and they're extremely genetically distinct. They look like polar bears. They don't act like dogs. They are naturally wary of humans, and they howl in ways that no one has even heard in over, allegedly, 10 millennia. That's crazy. The wolves were gestated by large domestic dogs and then born via C-section. And so now they live in a 2,000-acre ecological preserve at an undisclosed location. Obviously, we can't have people coming and trying to steal these dire wolves, which just Just imagine a crime ring in the near future that is dedicated to stealing de-extincted beasts. What kind of underground would you have then? Would you have underground de-extinct beast fights? Would you... Where does it end? But back to the task at hand. These dogs, their behavior is being closely monitored. Dogs, dire wolves, whatever they are. They're being closely monitored. They're fed raw meat, of course. They're given space to roam, and they're kept away from the public because they're not pets. They're not displays. They are, if Colossal is correct, a brand new beginning for a future that we can only imagine. Hearing that, you might be asking yourself, what does that mean exactly? Well, Colossal is not just resurrecting the direwolf. They're also working on bringing back a bunch of different creatures like the woolly mammoth, the dodo, the Tasmanian tiger, which is kind of recently extinct, but they're talking about even more. And what's gonna stop them from trying to make these creatures that they call dinosaurs come back as well? The company frames this effort not as a spectacle, but as conservation, of course. And the same tools that are used to bring back extinct species, they argue, will also help preserve the endangered ones that we have already. So by rebuilding the direwolf, they say, they're also learning how to strengthen the red wolf, which is a critically endangered cousin. And the genome editing technique that they're using might one day actually help prevent elephants, from succumbing to heat stress, which is also fascinating. Or they might even allow vulnerable marsupials to survive invasive predators. Obviously, Colossal has been doing a lot of work behind closed doors. Now, this is a revolution in conservation biology. This is a big deal, but it's also a step into completely unknown territory. The science behind these breakthroughs is complex, but it's not experimental. A lot of people, they think that this stuff is years off. They don't understand that it's already happened. So I love to bring this to people's attention to let them know that you guys think this gene modification, de-extinction, all that stuff is like fancy and figments of imagination. You guys are witnessing it right now. It's happening. Open your eyes and see this. And if they can do it with animals, guess what? They can do it with you. So these wolves, they were not cloned from ancient cells. Instead, what happened was scientists extracted DNA, identified the key genetic differences, and then edited modern cells to match. And the embryos were then implanted in surrogate mothers. Romulus and Remus were born in October of 2024, and Khaleesi followed in January 2025. She's just a little baby. And all three are healthy. None experienced the organ defects or birth complications that are common in earlier cloning attempts. And their surrogate mothers were carefully chosen and monitored. Their births were planned, their lives are now managed. I'm really curious about those earlier cloning attempts. What kind of monstrosities were produced from that? But this isn't Jurassic Park. Not yet. The return of extinct species raises questions that go beyond science though, right? Where will these animals live? Can they be integrated into ecosystems that no longer exist or remember them? And what risks do they pose? What risks do we accept by intervening in this way? Perhaps the greatest risk is boldness, being emboldened to go further than this. Consider these dire wolves. These were predators that once hunted megafauna like mammoths and bison and giant ground sloths and whatever else, probably people, and those prey species are gone. The dire wolf disappeared when its environment changed and its food sources vanished. It was a specialist, not just a generalist. Unlike gray wolves, which can hunt everything from mice to humans to moose, the dire wolf thrived in a very particular world, and that world is gone. Colossal's dire wolves will not be released into the wild, they say, at least not yet, because they're part of a long-term research project and their genetics, behavior, and physiology are being studied. But already the company is thinking ahead. Could future generations be rewilded? Could they live on tribal lands, be released into the parks? Could they help restore ecosystems? Some scientists are pretty skeptical about all that, as you can imagine, but even more, it seems, are pretty supportive. Everyone agrees that this is new territory though, and the woolly mammoth project is, in my opinion, even more ambitious than this even. Elephants are highly social animals with long gestation periods. Bringing back a mammoth won't mean just producing one calf. It will literally mean creating a herd, a culture, a community of mammoths. Colossal is editing elephant DNA at this very moment to mimic mammoth traits. And they've been talking about this kind of stuff for years, but this is actually happening. And they say, just like in the old times, it's gonna have this dense fur, fat storage, and kind of cold resistance that is unparalleled. And their goal is a first birth of a woolly mammoth by 2028. But once born, then what? What happens next? Because the Arctic, like we said in the beginning, is not what it was. The permafrost is melting. The mammoth steppe ecosystem no longer exists. Where does a mammoth go? And beyond de-extinction, Colossal is also exploring ways to genetically protect existing species. Their scientists have identified gene edits that could make native Australian marsupials immune to the toxins of invasive cane toads. That is crazy. In theory, this will help save all sorts of other animals from being wiped out by human introduced species and, the traumas that humanity brings in general. This is all part of the de-extinction logic. It's not just to reverse loss, but to prevent loss, to make species more adaptable, to undo the damage we've done. And you know what they do, guys? They always experiment on the animals before they experiment on the humans with the same stuff. So how far does this logic go? And who decides how far is too far? Reviving extinct species is way more, and I think we all can agree, than just some kind of technical feat. It is a moral and ecological decision. It changes the relationship between humans and nature. It makes extinction something we can reverse, or at least attempt to. And that shift could literally reshape how we think about conservation and life entirely. Will we still value biodiversity for its own sake if we think we can just bring it back later? Will we invest in habitat preservation if we believe we can edit animals to fit new conditions? Will this somehow make slavery once again more of a open discussion? Because maybe these things we bring back when they're humans aren't really humans, they're just kind of humans, right? Can you bring back a human soul from the dead? Or would you just bring back the body? How do you answer these questions? And then there's the question of control. Who's gonna control all of this? Who's in charge of it? Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi are alive, but they're not free. They're the first of something, or perhaps the last of something else. Definitely the last of the world as we know it. In my opinion, this changes all sorts of stuff. If de-extinction becomes common, it will not stop with the wolves and the mammoths. The tools being developed will be used in livestock, agriculture, and medicine. Entire industries may emerge around engineered genetics, and some already have. Colossal has literally spun off companies dedicated to plastic breakdown and drug discovery. The implications go way beyond animals. This is the beginning of a new era, guys. An era where extinction is not forever anymore. Where humans can intervene in the literal evolution of animal kind. Where the past can be written at the molecular level. And yet, for all the optimism, we've got this fear, right? This uncertainty, because ecosystems are complex. The risks are very real, and the consequences completely unpredictable. This is uncharted territory. That's what makes this moment so charged. The direwolves are here. The mammoths are coming. The dodos and the thylacines are not far behind. But what comes next when we've been emboldened? When we've been made confident in our abilities? Because we're not just reviving the past, We're designing the future. Don't drink the water and question everything. See you tomorrow.